A few weeks ago, I sat a maths exam and I got absolutely cooked in it. Every time I saw a trigonometric question, I was having an existential crisis. But unfortunately, even though the test did not go as well, I did get a video idea out of it. So here is how you can deal with a bad exam. The first thing that you should do when you come out of an exam that, went quite bad is that you should be honest with yourself. There's no point in gaslighting yourself, oh, the exam was very hard. If it was really that hard, it would have been bad for everyone. Or is it just that you did not study? It is more important than you think to take accountability. Was the exam really that hard, or did you just not prepare well enough? If the test was indeed hard, it would have been hard for every single person. So, it's more likely that our poor planning and our laziness got the better of us and we did not end up doing that well in that particular exam. Being honest, the examiner who's marking your paper does not really care at all about, your excuses. Oh, I studied so well, but the exam was so hard. They do not care because they know that if it was really that hard, it would have been hard for everyone and you would see that in the grade boundaries. So they don't really care about your excuses. So what would I do after a bad exam? After that bad exam, I would go home and I would, reflect back and see oh, what did I do wrong? How could I have done it better? And the most important question is that, if I had a week to prepare for the same exam, how well could I do in it? The truth is that only you know about your mistakes. So were you really that lazy? Did you not try hard enough? Only you know that. You can tell your friends, oh, I studied so hard for this. But did you really study? Because only you know. And it also depends on how you studied for the exam. If you have a chemistry A-level test and all you're doing is reading a textbook, is that really studying? No, it's not. So only you know in the back of your mind that did I really try hard enough? And more often than not, it comes down to your poor planning and your inefficient use of study techniques. So be honest with yourself. It is extremely important that you're self-aware and you don't gaslight yourself that, oh, I tried my best, but if I do it again, I'll do it better next time. You're gaslighting it. You're being delusional. You're not going to get a benefit out of this. It's only going to harm you. Your grades are not, anyone's responsibility. They're not going to benefit anyone else. They're only going to benefit or, damage yourself. So be honest with yourself. Even if you're not being honest with someone else, at least yourself, self-reflect and be honest. Point number 2. Don't let it affect your mood. Now, this is quite simple. It's basically what I'm trying to say is that it is the past. It's happened. You cannot do anything to change it. Now, what you can do is change the future. Because what's happened cannot be undone. So the next best thing is that you prepare for the future and you learn from your mistakes. Taking it as an example, do you really think people who got rich, so for example, millionaires and billionaires, they did not make any mistakes in their journey? Of course they did. The most important thing is that they made a lot of mistakes. But they capitalized on their mistakes. And what they did, they learned from their mistakes and they made sure they do not make the same mistake again and again. In fact, if I'm not wrong, there's a quote by Warren Buffett who said, "It is good to learn from your mistake, but it is better to learn from the mistakes of others." So do not make the same mistake twice. Now, the last thing that I would not recommend that you do is compare your answers with others, and I'll come to why this is so important. Now, this also directly corresponds to point 2, but when you compare your answers after a bad exam, you basically give yourself unnecessary stress. Even though you don't want to do that, you just, in the back of your mind, you start getting stressed. Oh, I got this many questions wrong. I got this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. How is my result going to be? So you're putting unnecessary pressure and stress on yourself. So I wouldn't recommend comparing your answers after an exam. Even if your exam went well, I would not, recommend you discussing and sharing your answers, because what happens is that, for example, you got the correct answer, but your friend told you oh, this was the correct answer, even though he was wrong. And then from that point onwards, you're going to be like, oh my God, I got it wrong. And you're going to believe him. So, the more this happens, the more you're going to stress out and you're going to put pressure on yourself. So there's not really a point of discussing, because what's happened has happened. Now you're going to get your result whenever the due date is, and that you should just leave it at that. You shouldn't compare your answers, because that can, vary your mood a lot. Sometimes a bad exam is what we really need. Why? Because it makes us understand what's our level, how can we improve. In other words, it can shape us for the future. So if you do have a bad exam, do not worry, do not panic, do not stress. Just make sure that you learn from whatever mistake you made and you do not repeat it again, which is the biggest point ever. Do not repeat the same mistake twice, because if you make the same mistake twice, are you really learning? Are you are you capitalizing on the chances? So for example, that you made this mistake 2 months ago and you're making this mistake again. Why? It doesn't really make sense. You should have already seen the consequences of the mistake you made a few months ago, and you're making the same mistake again. Now, is that down to you being a bit immature, or you being lazy, or whatever it may be? Just try not to make the same mistake twice. Work hard, and you should be able to get whatever grade you want in whichever exam. So for next time, whenever you have an exam coming up, tell yourself, would you rather suffer now by studying, or would you rather suffer after you get your results? I would rather suffer preparing for that exam and be happy once I get my results, rather than suffer now and then suffer again when I get my results. So there's no really point. Just drop everything, study for that exam, and be happy when you get your results. In the end, it pretty much comes down to how you prepared, and only you truly know that. You've probably done like hundreds of past papers and then you still cannot do the paper, then there's something obviously going wrong. So only you truly know how well you prepared. If you know in the back of your mind that you did not prepare as well as you wanted to, make it a lesson and prepare better next time. And if you did prepare well, then you know that something went wrong and you need to figure out what it is and make sure that it doesn't happen again. It all comes down to just seeing your mistake and not making it again. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and drop a like. You can also subscribe to the channel here. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of February, so hopefully we do end up getting that. You can also check out this video on how to never forget anything again and the magic of spaced repetition. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care and goodbye.